The online brawl that I didn't see coming, but I'm glad happened because now I have a great topic to talk about. My name is Gothix, and today we're discussing the Candace Owens versus Cardi B showdown. Well, kinda. I'm someone who tries my best to stay out of drama, especially when it's on a public forum, because I believe that two adults should be able to solve their problems privately, like adults. That being said, while most of Twitter was focused on the clapbacks and the tea that came from this interaction, I saw this as an opportunity to shed some light on a problem within Black American culture that needs to be addressed. Luckily for you, real talk is my favorite type of talk. So, how did this start? Well, as some of you know, Candace is a conservative political commentator who's had many harsh criticisms in the past of American culture, or specifically Black American culture. Of course, these criticisms usually result in her being labeled as anti-Black or a Black-white supremacist, which is literally the most nonsensical insult I have heard to date. And as someone who's constantly demonized as anti-Black for the contents of this channel, I was drawn to Candace because I know firsthand what it feels like to be attacked when you only have the best interest of others in mind. And before I get some Cardi B fans yelling at me in the comments, let me make this clear. Constructive criticism and attacking someone are two entirely different things. And if you can't take constructive criticism, then you're in the wrong industry. You think I enjoy having a bunch of people tell me I mispronounce words all the time in my video? No, but they're right. And that being said, what I've observed about this so-called anti-Black rhetoric that Candace promotes, in my opinion, is very pro-Black. The recent beef between these two ladies stemmed after Candace got on Fox News and criticized Cardi B's performance at the Grammys. For context, I'm gonna play that clip for you now, but if you've got some small kids near you, I suggest you yeet them out of the room.
Forget about mathematics and science. You can trust the science and trust Dr. Fauci, but you have these kids learning about critical race theory. They're learning that they should aspire to people like Cardi B. You see that fundamentally we are seeing the destruction of American values, American principles, and it's terrifying. I think parents should be terrified that this is the direction that our society is heading towards. And again, we are weakening America. That's really what we should be talking about. This is a weakening of American society. We are setting the stage, and it feels like we are looking at corrosion, like we are about to see the end of an empire. America cannot survive. It cannot be sustained under these sorts of values and principles.
And if you can imagine, this criticism was not well received by Cardi or a lot of her fans. But if I've learned anything from uploading content to this channel, is that a lot of people would rather be lied to and have their ego stroked rather than hear the truth. Now, let me start off by saying, I'm a big believer in freedom of expression. I don't believe that art should be censored. However, I do believe that some parameters should be taken into consideration. For example, why do you think that porn doesn't air on daytime television? Probably because kids would watch it. Now, I'm not saying that Cardi's performance was porn, but it's not too far off. When I was a kid, I remember being able to watch these award shows without feeling like my eyeballs were sexually assaulted. Yes, culture is changing, and yes, celebrities have always pushed the boundaries of scandalous outfits to wear on the red carpet. But overall, I find it very hard to believe that most parents would allow their child to watch a performance like Cardi's. And I know what you're gonna say. Well, parents should just watch their kids. And while you are right that it's not Cardi's responsibility, let's consider the bigger picture for a second. According to the FBI, Blacks commit the most homicides compared to any other race in America. If we look at an isolated area such as New York, 62% of murder suspects happen to be Black. I know that Black Lives Matter supporters don't like when Black-on-Black crime is brought up, but I find it very contradicting to hear that these people care more about Black lives when it involves a white officer, but not the constant gang violence that plagues our cities. Next up, only 30% of Black American households have both parents at home, and studies show that kids who are raised by both parents are more likely to have a better outcome in life. This isn't to say that it's not possible to thrive in a single-parent household, but statistically speaking, those who have both parents tend to stay out of trouble, do better in school, and are taught discipline. One might say, well, the reason that most Black households only have one parent at home is because the fathers were locked up as a result of systemic racism. Moving on, 69% of Black women have non-marital births compared to 51% for Hispanics, 28% for whites, and 11% for Asians. And while it's not entirely necessary to get married before marriage, there's usually a reason that people do it. Next up, there's the matter of STIs. According to the CDC, young Black women rank the highest for STIs than any other race in America. And while the CDC does point this disparity towards systemic racism, could someone please explain to me how systemic racism prevented someone from practicing safe sex? There are clinics that give condoms out for free. Now we have the matter of abortions. Let me make this clear. I am a live and let live person, so if you want to do whatever's to your body, have at it. Does not concern me. That being said, it's still very alarming to know that Black women abort their babies at a much higher rate compared to other races. So when I see that Black women rank the highest for STIs and the highest for unmarital births, that tells me there's either a parenting problem or a culture problem. This is exactly why I believe that certain parameters should be in place to prevent kids from absorbing this type of stuff. Granted, it won't solve every problem, but it's better than nothing. That would be like having no age restrictions on alcohol. Yeah, kids can still get their hands on it, but imagine how worse it would be if those guidelines were not in place. And of course, we have other factors such as entertainment. And again, I am a huge believer in freedom of expression. But if the most trending songs out of Black culture tend to be those that glorify gang violence or promote promiscuity, I can't help but wonder if the culture has any correlation to the data. But the thing that really bothered me about this interaction was how this was perceived by the liberal media. Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion served up a very sex-positive performance, and they gloriously twerked and strutted, says CNN. What's interesting about this article is it reminds me of an interaction I had on Twitter a few years ago. I found this thread where a Black woman was angry about a viral video featuring a gay Asian man who was twerking and using all kinds of gestures like this and yas and all this stuff. In her post, she said she wished that people would stop using Black women as caricatures. Instantly, I thought to myself, why is she bringing up race? Because to say that this man was using Black women as caricatures is to imply that the behavior he's exhibiting is specific to Black women. So I ended up leaving a comment on the post, to which I said, not all Black women act like that, and personally, I find that behavior to be a little ratchet. And I'm sure you can guess what the responses were to my comment. But despite how upsetting it is to hear that someone refers to that behavior as ratchet, then how would you define it? Is it classy? Is it professional? Is it empowering? Or does it further perpetuate the same stereotypes that Black women hate hearing? I've been a content creator for the past 4 years, and one thing that I always keep in the back of my mind is when it comes to branding, it doesn't matter what your intent is. It matters how it's perceived. So if you want to act in the manner that Cardi B does, that's your right. But to suggest that the public shouldn't assume that her behavior is ratchet, by the way, her behavior, not her personally, would be like me expecting new viewers to see my haircut and not assume that I'm an angry SJW. This is probably my favorite comment that I get from you guys, so thank you so much for bringing a smile to my face. Oh, and before I forget, let's take a look at what Planned Parenthood had to say about this performance. Shout out to the iconic Black women using the power of pleasure as a form of resistance, followed by, join us as we discuss how the energy of Grammy Award-winning The Stallion's Savage remix and other Black women's music is shifting the culture and influencing conversations around sexuality and body autonomy. Okay, I have no problems with body autonomy, but what I do have a problem with is an enabler. And as I showed you earlier in this video, Black women take the lead for STIs, premarital births, and abortions. And if I were to add Black on Black crime to that mix before considering all of these factors, it looks an awful lot like the extermination of the Black race. Which, interestingly enough, if you know anything about Planned Parenthood's history, you would know that it was founded by Margaret Sanger, a nurse and educator who not only spoke at KKK rallies, but also believed in eugenics, a belief in improving the human race through selective breeding which targeted the disabled, the poor, and people of color. So when I see a post like this, I can't help but think to myself, why didn't they use this opportunity to promote safe sex rather than the power of pleasure as a form of resistance. Resistance against what? Safe sex? Because statistically speaking, that would make sense. This has nothing to do about societal standards. This is simply common sense. If a child isn't allowed to drink, smoke, or serve their country, then why would we turn a blind eye to the facts? And the facts being, a lot of Black youth simply lack guidance and discipline. And when they grow up, there's a possibility that that behavior will be passed down to their kids. So how do you break the cycle? Well, in my opinion, having honest conversations like this and holding people accountable for the decisions that they make are a great way to start. And how do you keep the problem going? Easy. Blame everything on systemic racism and call it a day. And that's the end of this video. If you enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more content like this. Also, a huge shout out to my Subscribe Star members for sponsoring another video. Oh, and be sure to stay connected with me by signing up for my mailing list in the event that YouTube decides my videos are too problematic. My name is Gothix, and I'll see you on the flip side. Bye!